شرم الشيخ. نحيي حضراتكم وننقل لكم فعاليات افتتاح عدد
to
كبير
put
من
you
المشروعات
live
في
to
هذه
inaugurate
المدينة الجميلة
several
وأيضا في محافظة
projects in
جنوب
such a
سيناء
beautiful
بشكل عام.
city,
مشاهدينا
and
الكرام،
these
نحن
are
اليوم في
Sinai
جامعة
Governorate.
الملك
And now
سلمان،
we
واحدة من
are
الجامعات
visiting
الأهلية
the King
المميزة
Salman
جدا. هذا
University, one of
الاتجاه الذي
the
اتخذته
biggest
الدولة منذ
distinctive
فترة قليلة، وهو
university
إنشاء
that's
عدد من
through a
الجامعات
direction
الأهلية
adopted by the
كنهضة
state to
تعليمية،
build
ولكي تصبح
national
منبعا
and
للثقافة
community
والتعليم في
universities to
المنطقة
be
العربية
the
والإقليمية
base
ككل.
for
جامعة الملك
scientific
سلمان هي واحدة من
investigations in the
الجمعيات
Arab region.
الأهلية.
The King
الجامعات
Salman
الأهلية
University,
مثلها
one
مثل
of the
جامعة
national
العالمين
universities,
الجديدة، وأيضا
such
جامعة
as the New
الجلالة. جامعة
Alamein
الملك
and Al
سلمان
Galala
لها
University.
العديد
The
من
King
الأفرع هنا في
Salman
مدينة شرم الشيخ،
University has
أيضا في مدينة
several
الطور ورأس
branches
سدر.
in Sharm El
مجموعة من
Sheikh and Al Tur
الأقسام
and Ras
المختلفة
Sidr
والمتنوعة
cities,
والخدمات
different
التي تقدم في هذه
topics such
الجامعة.
as the field of
فرع شرم
art and
الشيخ
design in Sharm El
به
Sheikh,
يضم
field
الألسن واللغات
of
والسياحة
Alston and
والفنادق والعمارة
languages,
والإنتاج الإعلامي
tourism and
والفنون. أما
hospitality,
عن باقي الفروع
media
الخاصة
production,
بجامعة
and
الملك
the
سلمان
arts. The
فهي
rest
تتنوع
of the
ما بين
branches are
الطب
varied
والصيدلة،
from
علوم المياه والبحار
medicine,
والصناعة والتكنولوجيا والتمريض.
technology,
هذا بالإضافة
and
إلى سكن
industries
للطلبة
and
وخدمات
nursing.
متنوعة ثقافية
Adding
وترفيهية
to
خاصة بالطلبة
entertainment
هنا.
services
مشاهدينا
related to
الكرام،
the
نحن أيضا
students.
اليوم بصدد
And
افتتاح
now we are
متحف شرم
about to
الشيخ. متحف
inaugurate
شرم
Sharm El
الشيخ
Sheikh
هو
Museum,
واحد من
which is one
المتاحف
of the
المميزة
museums
والكبيرة.
that are very distinctive and biggest one. His Excellency Mr. President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic, and His Royal Highness Mir Fahd bin Sultan bin Abdulaziz, the Prince of Tabuk region.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم.
In the name of
كل سنة
Allah,
وانتم
the most
طيبين جميعا.
merciful, the most passionate, and peace be upon you all, and happy many returns. And I'd like to welcome you, the Saudi delegation, presided by His Royal Highness Prince Fahad. I would like to welcome you. Please be seated. In the name of Allah, the most passionate, the most merciful, His Excellency Mr. President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic, the Egypt guest, His Royal Highness Amir Fahd bin Sultan bin Abdulaziz, the Prince of Tabuk, ladies and gentlemen, between a historical past and a promising present is combined by the future of Egypt that creates a new reality here in the peace city of Sharm El Sheikh of South Sinai Governorate, and send to the whole world greetings of peace by affirming the civilization of Egypt through thousands of years to keep with a new renaissance that to be present before the people and the world, and hence to launch a new national mega project in throughout Sinai, such a project that targeting to improve the living and the life for the sons of Sinai, that reflected the importance of the political leaders of such a great spot that has a special legacy before the Egyptian and the whole world, that witnessed a great step of development that are suitable for Sinai of a great history. The best to start with the recitation of the Holy Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين صدق الله العظيم.
صدق الله العظيم. السيد الرئيس،
Mr. President, the honest, honorable guest of Egypt, ladies and gentlemen, it's the first of the university establishment in South Sinai, which is considered one of the best cooperation between Saudi Arabia and Egypt that targets to achieve the pioneership globally and internationally. We are talking about the King Sulaiman University view entitled The Enchantment of Sinai.
حبة الرمل دول مش أي حبة رمل، ده رمل مشي عليه أنبياء وكلم عليه سيدنا موسى ربنا عز وجل. وحاول البعض يخطف حبة رمل زي دول
Moses and try to steal these spots that been attacked by the security forces, and therefore we preserve to have these and maintain these holy land. The sand was in the heart of the desert.
وشاهد على حربنا ضد الإرهاب عمره ما نجح يوقفه، وتحدي تنمية عمرنا ما نسيناه. اللي مشي على الأرض دي من كام سنة استحالة يقول إن الناس اللي بتواجه الإرهاب هتبقى قادرة تعمل تنمية. لكن مين قال إن المصريين ما يقدروش؟ المصريين على عهد دايما مع بلدهم ومع الإنسانية.
نحن سنفتتح جيل جديد من الجامعات خلال العام الدراسي القادم فيها كل العلوم التي تتحدثون عنها، كل العلوم.
النهارده في قلب سينا وعلى رمل سينا مش بنبني جامعة واحدة، بنبني 3 جامعات في مشروع قومي في جنوب سينا بيحمل اسم جامعة الملك سلمان الدولية. 15 كلية و56 برنامج في 3 فروع ذكية، سواء في الطور أو في راس سدر أو في شرم الشيخ. بتلبي احتياجات سوق العمل العالمية والثورة الصناعية الرابعة. أكثر من 25,000 طالب هتستقبلهم جامعة الملك سلمان الدولية بعد اكتمال مراحلها. طلاب من مصر ومن العالم كله بدأوا بالفعل يدرسوا في كليات بتراعي سوق العمل المصرية والعالمية، والأول مرة في مصر يبقى في كلية للزراعات الصحراوية. ونشوف أحدث مناهج العالم في علوم المياه والبحار جوه كلية العلوم. وما بننساش كلية الصناعات التكنولوجية الفريدة من نوعها اللي بتخرج مهندسين على أعلى مستوى في كل المجالات التطبيقية. ده غير كلية السياحة والضيافة اللي فيها برامج في إدارة المنتجعات والأحداث السياحية وعلوم المتاحف والتراث. كلية للفنون والتصميم اللي هيبقى فيها دراسات للألعاب وللرسوم المتحركة وغيرها وغيرها من المجالات اللي بتوصل ل 17 مجال أكاديمي.
أنا اخترت جامعة الملك سلمان عشان فيها بروجرامز مش موجودة في أي جامعة تانية في مصر،
وإن في الجامعة اكتيفيتيز كتيرة جدا زي التنس، فوتبول، باسكتبول.
جامعة في بلد سياحية زي شرم الشيخ.
أصلا عايشة في شرم، فقررت إن أنا أفضل في المدينة اللي أنا عايشاها، وشفت كل الكواليتيز اللي أنا عايزاها هنا، فليه أسافر أي مكان تاني وكل اللي أنا عايزاه أوريدي هنا.
من جامعات الجيل الرابع وما بعدها، وده إن دل فهو يدل على قوة التعليم فيها.
تجربة جديدة على أرض مصر، وأنا حبيت إن أنا أخد التجربة دي.
ده غير المستشفى الجامعي لخدمة أهالينا والخدمة طلبة كليات الطب والصيدلة والتمريض. وما نسيناش وسط كل ده إن الجامعة تبقى مركز من مراكز تنمية المجتمع اللي حواليها.
بقول للمصريين أنا هوريكم جامعة مش موجودة إلا في مصر، عشان الناس اللي بتحلم بالتعليم مش هنسيب حاجة نقدر نعملها إلا لما هنعملها وهنعملها كويس.
جامعة الملك سلمان الدولية منارة جديدة بتقدمها مصر للإنسانية، وتأكيد جديد على واجبنا كلنا في تقديم تعليم عالي يليق بالمستقبل وتنمية حقيقية للمجتمع السيناوي. جامعة الملك سلمان الدولية حلقة من ملحمة ما بتنتهيش، كل اللي فيها أبطال بيبنوا مستقبل بلدهم وعارفين واجبهم تجاهها، ولحد آخر نفس المصريين على العهد. على العهد يا رجالة، على العهد يا مصريين.
على عهد يا رجالة، على عهد يا أحسن ناس، الإيد الشغالة غالية وكل إحساس في القلب وجوه العين، ولا حاجة تنسينا. عشاق ملايين ملايين رحنا في رملة سينا، والدم اللي رواه حولها دهب على ماس. على عهد يا رجالة، على عهد يا أحسن ناس.
جامعة قلوبنا يا سينا تستاهل 200 جامعة، تعالي وتعلينا أرضك شايفة وسامعة،
تزرع علم وعلماء والمدفع جنب الفاس. على عهد يا رجالة، على عهد يا أحسن ناس. دي يا دوب خطوة بسيطة وده أول مشوارها، احنا رسمنا خريطة والعلم ينورها،
تبقى حقيقة قصادنا على الأرض في حضن الناس.
على عهد يا رجالة، على عهد يا أحسن ناس.
السيد الرئيس، الحضور الكرام.
Mr. President and the honorable guests, the state is in a great concern of the education file in general, that it has a great impact directly to develop the human capabilities in Egypt and the competitiveness of globally and internationally. And here we are gaining the fruits of the Saudi-Egyptian cooperation by inaugurating the KSIU, and now we give the floor to the speaker of His Excellency, the Minister of Education, Higher Education. In the name of Allah, the Most Merciful, the Most Merciful, Your Excellency, Mr. President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic, His Royal Highness Prince Fahd bin Sultan, the Prince of Tabuk. Excellencies, the guests of Egypt, of Saudi, and friendly states, we were yesterday in Alexandria Governorates in Burj Al Arab city to open new university of honorable President of opening the Egyptian University of Science and Technology and another international universities. And today, the last day of October month and the anniversary of Glory October War, before we celebrate of a new victory of challenge and well and construction by opening the KSIU in the South Sinai Governorate, which is now a model of brotherhood and cooperation between Saudi Arabia and Egypt in the framework of the current program of King Salman bin Abdulaziz and his crown prince to develop the peninsula of Sinai by launching the name of the Holy custodian of the Holy Mosques, such university of King Sulaiman that we were working to open through the past years among 24 new university, technological and national, private and international university, and the King Sulaiman International University in South Sinai, affiliated with its 4 branches in Sharm El Sheikh on the space of 35 Fadan and El Tour of space 350 Fadan. The distinctive in the King Sulaiman University is they are not the faculties but the variable programs that go line in line with the global and international labor market by providing 56 program of a capacity of 25 to 30,000 students. If we talk about the King Sulaiman University in Sharm El Sheikh branch, we found in a very important touristic city that reflect the educational programs on the nature of the city, hence the tourism and hospitality faculty in managing hotels through programs of the museum sciences and the Alsan and applied languages that contain different nationalities to learn by learning national languages and the communications of the cultures between civilizations, in addition to art and design faculty and architecture, and that contain different programs of cartoon and graphic programs and ad hoc programs to design games. In tourism and hospitality branch that affiliated of educational index to qualify the students by containing suites, restaurants, laundry and canteen, and tourism companies to train the students. A model of the hotel rooms and educational rooms through the educational hotel. As you can see, the students to be trained on all the skills and the art of tourism and hospitality, till receiving delegation, organizing conferences and organize great festivals in Ras Sadr. According to the graphical nature of the city, the state and the university are taking great concern of the desert agriculture and the technological industry of foods and different programs throughout the desert. Also, there are faculties for the science of the societies and others in Ras Sadr in the same governorate. Al Tour the health sector of medicine, dental faculties added to the computer sciences, that we notice the provided programs of engineering faculties are not classical ones, but they are special programs for artificial intelligence, as well as the power engineering, water and environment, and mechatronics and autotronics engineering. Therefore, most of the programs to be studied in the engineering faculties, as well as the medical ones, they are not classicals, in order to have a full integration among the community's faculties to be established quite soon. It is very important to be managed by trustees, councils to be added, or to include of different personalities, culturally, literaturally, and academically, to have a great awareness by the providing different services. They are actually one of the fourth generations, and they are relying on the IT technology, starting with the ID card of the students, through which they can enroll of different classes, labs, and they can communicate of different programs for doing the electronic exams throughout the 24 hours, and to monitor the artificial or the smart operation to be controlled, as well as the temperature and different others, such as the exams and different files of education programs and students programs and management. In fact, as quoted by His Excellency Mr. President, we can establish university, yet the whole story are not relying on the bricks and the concrete, but the idea is relying specifically on the content within such university that we did throughout the past 3 years through your directive shares of all the establishment made by the engineering, military engineering authorities to supervise such a project. Tens of private, that include also tens of private companies and thousands of workers and engineers in a very short time, starting September 2017. Before 3 years, such biggest educational establishment furnished of very and modernized technological equipment. Starting 17th of October, only 2 weeks ago, the study has already started of big hours through such the university. They are not on it is not only a university, but has a housing building and different activities of hundreds of rooms in all the branches, as well as the courts and entertainment activities, in order to have a very encouraging environment for the students to stay within the campus. This is the higher educational metrics that rely on educational infrastructure, as well as information ones that made it in a very high style. And we cannot forget the system that rely on the candidacy and the administrative staff. There are the factors of the system. We can establish great university, but if we neglect the human factor and its development to provide what is possible to be benefited by the students, therefore the ministry worked on training programs for all the professors and their members, passing in a great time of tests in order to self-assured of their educational capabilities and the message to be sent And at the same time, we're working on to train the candidacy throughout all the University of the Republic. In order to have an output of such programs to build a very civilized and innovative individual, which are the purpose of building the fourth generation's university. If we look at such programs, so we cast a light on the promising opportunities. We are talking about the 2025 in the World Economic Forum said that there are 75 million opportunities to be created, and we have 85 million opportunities to be right off or to be divided between the machine and the human. When we talk about the 2025, we talk about it in a very soon date. Yet the students that just have been enrolled, they are going to be graduated 2024 to 2025. Therefore, they are looking forward to the future of opportunities to be provided by the graduates of such universities to be fully vested and fully prepared to deal with the expected variables of the labor market. So through the program, solve problem solutions that can be trained by the students throughout the educational term. And the officers of Internet and the programs developers are within the national and the public university that are being developed at large scale in order to come out with the right time for these students to be or to join the labor market. Only 2 days the World Classification of Time Education to classify the programs within university through the time education 2 days ago witnessed Cairo and Mansoura and Sharm and Sharm El Sheikh University in the fields of medicine. As you're always saying, that we need to have the graduates of the public and national graduates to be in the universal classification, among which 125 and 30,000 medicine colleges are classified of Al Mansoura and Ain Shams, one of the most preferable universities throughout the world, which is a great development that we cannot see that universities of Sweden, University of Iowa, and in the same ranking. Some educational programs provided by the great or the old Egyptian university took such position. In the field of computer sciences, Banha and Al-Zagazig and Mansoura are one of the best of 500 best colleges throughout the world. Through the university ranking of already by subject, we found that the Egyptian university are within such a ranking distinctively that include 8 Egyptian universities. In the field of technology and engineering, we have Aswan and Bani Suef universities, and we find not only Cairo and Ain Shams University within the classification or the ranking, but also we found universities from the Upper Egypt, from medicine and engineering are listed in the world ranking. In the field of pharmaceutical, and we have 10 Egyptian universities through Cairo and Shams and Al Mansoura universities, and they are very close to some universities that are located in United States and Europe, and in 2020 in Shanghai, some of the Egyptian universities have already gained a very advanced ranking. But the question that is proposed do we need to establish new university? Does the future today, we do not plan for the future, but we to compete in the future. We see the future of the state 20 years to come, and making measurements for the upcoming generation according to the directives of Your Excellency, to have a very visited students that cope with the scientific and technological advancement. Therefore, in order to answer such questions, do we need to establish new universities, no matter what are their names, private, national, communities? Therefore, that we had to make studies to study the number of the students and the number of the universities currently, and to study the need for the establishing new university. We found that the Egyptian state in general, but we've already looked at to the all the Egyptian districts in order to find the gap to be filled. It was a must to study the demographic changes from 2020 to 2030 in order to find the need of the places and the age classification of such age from 80 to 21 to be increased from 7.9 million to 9 in 2030. So the expectation of the increase of the people, it is an expectation to reach 125 million people 10 years to come. Therefore, we had to make a new demographic change according to the government ratio. We have 27 public university and 10 affiliated, 3 technological, 1 and private university are 25. We found the distribution demographically through the portal of GIS in order to imagine the demographic distribution of the all university according to the Republic map. And we have found the demographic and the and geographic distribution. We found the distribution of the people, and we found the demographic ones. Not only that, we've already applied another class in the university to be linked economically of the region, that all the university to serve its inhabitants, whether the need of the district itself. So the university to serve the place of the purpose of its establishment. We talk about Ras Sidr, Al Tur, Sharm El Sheikh, to the nature of the study according to the nature of the place. And we found the fields of agriculture, the Golden Triangle, the field of construction, and we put them on the map to link the number of the demographic place and the economic activities. We found that the situation currently and its future. And to be clarified, we took the east and west of Cairo and Al Giza University. We looked at specific communities, and we studied the distribution of the student demographically and geographically and demographically, and we found who is going to be enrolled to have an expectation in order to find that we are going to be prepared to contain such a number of these students. We found that Al Qalubiyya and Al Giza and Cairo, of the total of the population that are linked of the higher education between the 18 years and 25, we found like 5 million of students. Do they enroll the university? No. But to study the Al-Giza and Qalyubiyya, we found 5 million students that are expected to be enrolled in the higher education. Therefore, if we looked at to the eastern of Cairo, we divided the places such as Al-Maqattam and Sheikh Nasser, Matariya and Ain Shams district, as well as others. And we found the eastern Cairo, we found a new communities such as the first and the fifth settlement, and we break them down to find the numbers of the population, and it is also a very preserved study that is relied on the statistic and population authority to come up with a very important information that around 1 million students of the old cities and the new compounds, around 55,000 that can be doubled by increasing the population of the new administrative capital. But in the western region, we found in the old historical places, we found 1.5 million and 80,000 students in new cities such as 6th of October and Al Sheikh Zayed. So the study is made on the eastern and the western Cairo only, and the Cairo governorates of a great population that can give a great segmentation of the whole republic. And we found that approximately 1 million in the east and around 3 million in the future places. And if we talk about 1 million students that are expected in 2030 to have 3 million students, from which who is going to be left out and to be enrolled in public university, that the result around only 75 to 80% to be enrolled in the university, i.e. that the free public education is containing around 70, 80 to 80% of these people to be enrolled. So the rest are in need to go to different fields of universities that we did, such as international and private, national and technological university, that we ease the burden of the public education. If we see in the right of the screen, we found the current segmentation in the eastern of Cairo, and we found the future by the study of the population hierarchy. We found 3.7 million students are needed in 12 years. Why? Because the plan is the fifth plan from 18 to 22 to 27 to 30. Therefore, we are going to be in need to have a place for 300,000 students that can be doubled through 12 years only on the national and private university, plus the increase of the public ones. We found in the right screen, we found university by their names, their demographic places in the eastern Cairo, and on the left side we found the future aspect of the eastern area, and there is a plan in between the urban communities to plan and allocate the proper pieces of land. There is a cooperation between the Ministry of Higher Education and other entities in order to imagine and participate of the educational expansion in such field according to the increase of the population. Then we can expect an increase from 80 to 376 to till 2030, 376,000 till 2030 to be contained. At the western of Cairo, we found the new communities in the western area of Cairo, and we noticed that in 2020 we'll talk about 80,000 students of age that can be expected to 207,000 students in the western area of Cairo. So there is a need to expand the educational system in the eastern and western of Cairo. The same thing of the western Cairo that we found established university at the scoop of Sheikh Zayed and 6th of October cities, and there are allocated pieces of land through the urban communities and other entities to find that a part of thinking of expansion in the future in the western of Cairo to contain the expected numbers based on the study. Such a study, we explained the assignment of His Excellency Mr. President to be based on data of information throughout the Republic. Just to cut it brief, not to study the rest of the study, but can give a clear and crystal point of view for the study to have in each district and each governorate in Egypt of our situation and our future in 2030. So we are executing to the future and not planning. Allow me, sir, of Dr. Khaled, I've already talked about on the western and eastern of the Cairo, just to be more clarified. We are taking, regardless if we're talking on private or national or public university in Egypt, each million needs one university. So if we are 100 million, so we are in need for have 100 million university in Egypt, regardless of their classification. So the current situation, we have only 72 university of different types. If we reach it in 2030, as said by His Excellency Mr. Minister, to reach 125 million, i.e. 25 million increase. So Dr. Khaled talked about the eastern and western of Cairo, but if I may comment, just to give an idea of our reality that we are going to through 12 years to come. The one university of a cost mostly from 8 to 10 billion Egyptian pound. So you are talking about in a gap mostly of 30 to 40 universities. So you are talking about 100 billion Egyptian pound of establishment, not just for establishment and operations. We are working on and very determined to fill the gap as soon as possible, and I wished the doctor to talk about it through the 6 years that passed, how, to what extent we've already moved, not just for the volume. We'll talk about the quality of the education that we are very insist to provide an education that cope with our aspirations for Egyptian people. And we've talked about, we have around 30,000 Egyptian students that are taking education abroad, which is a burden for their families, that they hope to have a proper university to contain just a portion of such a number. Thanks to the Almighty God, we are working now. The university, as said by Mr. Minister, said we're not making concrete establishments. We are establishing university of world and top-notch university to achieve the goal that to get the provided education for the students. It should be an advanced one to cope with the requirements of the labor market. Allow me just to intervene, and I'm very sorry, just to cut it brief, that each million individual in Egypt is in need for an university. They are classified ranging from public, national and private. If we reach to 125 million, so we are going to be in need of establishing 125 million university according to the considerable standards for the university contains such a number. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, sir. We also talk about university contain 8 to 10,000 students, which is a model that's been ratified by His Excellency Mr. President. There are in the Eastern Cairo 19 universities that contain 250,000 students. The others university of an average 10,000, and the average of the construction is 40 fedans. By His Excellency directives to increase around to 35 universities in the Western, around 16. So we're talking only on two parts at the Eastern and the Western of Cairo, which is an indicator that we are in need to expand the educational establishment at larger scale. So we are in need 15 national university to add 4 branches for international university. We are in need of 6 technological university. If we talk about the diversity of the university, no matter the classifications are, we are in need to add more 6 technological university. Now I'd like to self-assure you, sir, that as planned by the engineering authority to do the survey of such lands and to receive the pieces of land to start up in the upcoming weeks in order to have some of the achievements that would be close to the at-stage inauguration. We are also working on some university of industrial zones in eastern Boursaid or Tiba and Burg Al Arab that are linked in educational programs that are in need for industrial zones such as textile and other technical fields. Therefore, according to the place of the place, we study the economic advantage through training the students to be enrolled in the fields of industrial activities. At the last presentation, His Excellency Mr. President by saying as quoted that if you would like to start with the first and the second phases that we are ready for, but in Sabr district in Egypt, we've already started by 27 university and another 15 national university, and we've already started the educational programs in other governorates such as Al-Minya and Sohag and others. We've already outreached the other governorates according to the study in order to expand throughout the Republic by establishing national university, and we've already started by establishing 15 as ratified by Sir located on 30 acres that contain to 8 to 10,000 students, which is the classical model through which by the provided programs to contain all the disciplines, labs, workshops, and the other housing areas. As you can see, the construction shape will be like so. The future project starting 2016 to 2020 through 4 to 5 years in the past, and the future that of course 120 billion Egyptian pound through developing and establishing new ones, or the international university to be added in the new administrative capital, or through the national university that are established, Al-Galala, King Sulaiman, Al-Alamin, and the new Al-Mansoura. and other technological universities that were opened in Bani Suef and others, that they are 3, or the private university, so it is in a long road and a great dream, God willing. Any orders? Thank you. Allow me, sir, to inaugurate the branch of the King Sulaiman International University in Ras Sidr, and accompanied by Major Muhammad Fahmi, the General Supervisor of such project. Any orders? Thank you. Egyptian civilization is enriched of antiquities and treasures that are continuing throughout the history up to now. The Egyptian state is exerting all the efforts to maintain the old historical civilization by innovation, building the antiquities and heritage places through positively reflecting the field of tourism as one of the national income resources. The speech of Dr. Khalid Danani, the Minister of Tourism and Antiquities. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, Your Excellency, Mr. President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic of Egypt, Your Royal Highness, Prince Khalid bin Sultan, the Prince of Tabuk, the honorable guests today from the precious Sinai land and the anniversary of the Glory October War, we witnessed a very exceptional event, which is the establishment and opening three important museums that stopped operationally since 2011 in Sharm El Sheikh, of a cost of financial funding of around 1 billion Egyptian pound. Today we found and to open the first museum of antiquities that started the work in 2003 and stopped 2011 of a cost of 18 billion Egyptian pound, and another museum in Sharm El Sheikh started the operation of 2008 and stopped 2011 of cost 63 billion Egyptian pounds, and the inauguration of the innovation of the Museum of the Royal Vehicles, one of the great and oldest one in the world, that started its innovation on 2002 and stopped 2011 of cost 62 million Egyptian pound, according to Your Excellency directives, to give a great concern to maintain and innovate all the antiquity and heritage places and to develop and innovate the biggest museums. The work has been resumed after years of stop. The indicators of such an exceptional and civilized event to open 3 museums in 3 governorates in the same time. Firstly, the keenness of the state to provide in touristic infrastructure of different governorates and to create attractive destination that attracted the tourists. For example, Sharm El Sheikh, that is enriched of the sea sports and safari, and now the tourist is fully acquainted of the Egyptian culture, and now we have a museum to cast the light of the civilization of the governorate in addition to the old civilization. Also affirm the increase of the state, the increase of the awareness of the state to have the tourism and the Egyptian to have them acquainted with the enriched and historical civilization. And also the provision of funding to maintain and preserve such a heritage, and the affirmation of the state to complete the operation of such museums. 3 months ago, we opened the project of Al Baron Castle, and to explore the efforts of the state, allow me to just to remind the viewers of some and to affirm the rest. Throughout the past 6 years, we've already opened and inaugurated 17 museums, whether they are new or innovate and old ones throughout the Republic, to a mountain of 20, on top of which the Islamic Art Museum in Cairo, after the was attacked by the terrorists, and Al-Mania Museum were reopened, and another one in Al Fayoum, and the whole of the temporary museum opened by the UNESCO, and also to open another museum in Sohag that started to be operational more than 30 years ago. We are honored to open a new one in Matruh and Tambasta, and another one was opened after innovation in Tamta. And we've already made and executed 80 projects of developing and innovating all the Egyptian museums. The sites colored of the green color, they are Egyptians that are registered on the graphical maps, that hundreds of millions of Egyptians pounds were spent to maintain and for the upcoming generations in Aswan, Luxor, governorates, and the historical Cairo and the MENA region that we are working on. Ma'ad Hibs in Wahat al-Kharga, and the Open Museum in Mataria, and establishing huge antiquities in San al-Hadar that they are scattered throughout years in the past. Their workers in the Higher Council of Antiquities, and for the first time that more than 60 years to innovate and establish 8 places to be established in San al-Hagar, and secondly in the new administrative cities, one in the new Alamein city and another one in Al-Tahrir Square. We've already finished the 4 projects to decrease the groundwater in Edfu and other areas in Sohag, and the workers in the Higher Council of Antiquities for the first time to complete the front of Luxor Museum by establishing 3 great statues of the King Ramses II, and the innovation of pyramids area that stopped before, and the engineering authority of the armed forces to execute around 100% of its project, and the Church of Apanub of the historical Cairo that registered in the list of the UNESCO that gained a great opportunities of innovation. You excellently honored to open Al-Azhar Mosque by full cooperation and collaboration with our brothers in Saudi Arabia, and by opening also a castle of Prince Kamal. In 2020, despite the COVID-19 crisis that stopped great projects throughout the world, we're going to explore what opened, in fact, started by opening Al-Fath Mosque and another antique mosque that to be in place in Alexandria after the Al-Guma prayer, and also by the visit in the Saint Marcus, one of the first churches in Africa and the premises of Pope throughout centuries, and another museum of Nyarhampi in Alexandria, which is a model and an example of the diversity between Egyptians. The first one of antiquities were opened in Egypt by the collaboration of the special sector or the private sector in Egypt that the state that caused the state nothing, followed by 5 days. We had letters by the UNESCO regularly throughout years. What about the first pyramid that opened Dusur in Saqqara? Mr. Premier was honored to open before early this year. You've already honored to open the first integrated project of Al Baroun Castle that executed by the engineering authority of the armed forces to be or to regain its great view, and it was wonderful in the same day to open development project in the Heliopolis area in Cairo. Another project or another company was joined us to open a new restaurant and a new electric bus in Pyramids area, and to be fully operational at the end of 22, to be in a very environment-friendly vehicle in such an area. I promise you, sir, before the end of 22, the National Museum of the Egyptian Civilization in full start after the great development and great bridges that would make it very easy to reach. And God willing, a universal motorcade to take place in Al Fustat area. We've already ended up the development and innovation of the garden or the park of the Egyptian museum in Al Tahrir Square, and we're going to open a new museum entitled The Capitals of Egypt, since the old history of Egypt till the end or till the opening of the new administrative capital. The Great Egyptian or the Grand Egyptian Museum, thanks to Almighty God, the engineering work is going in a very speedy pace through the past 4 years, that notably to decrease the cost of hundreds of millions of US dollars without affecting the quality. And God willing, at the end of December, we are going to put the antiquities within the displays of Amun Museum. The antiquities missions had reached a very unexpected form in Egypt with the collaboration of foreign missions. We're exploring El Saqqara. What we can see in the two doubled pictures that give a picture for the workers that they are the inhabitants of Al-Aqsur. Those they are built the obelisk that we've talked about, and Saqqara, despite the COVID-19, the lower image or picture shows how they worked in it. That talked by the whole world. We've already announced it, and we found that it was an endless exploration. As expected in November, we are going to announce a great exploration in the same area. And today, Sharm El Sheikh Museum, a dream that started 2003, stopped 2011. The work has resumed, and now we are inaugurated a great museum. It's another added destination or an attractive point of destination in Sharm El Sheikh for the tourists to make his or her daily and sea and water activities in the morning, and then visit such a great museum that are in more than 5,000 square meters. It's in a great landscape of water sinks, opened museum as entrance. We found in a great historical from the Ptolemaic era, and an information desk, a great hall for VIPs, a great displays that provide all the handmade productions, and the royal path of the museum that cast the light, the biggest spot of